Hello everybody. So I just created another video where I showed the difference between both options for the Over the Moon Advent project, either wide like this one or narrow. And so this one is the long version and the wider one is the short version, because you use about the same amount of yarn, but you're either making a wider cowl with fewer rows in each pattern repeat or a longer cowl with more rows in each pattern repeat. And it turns out narrower. So when you start this project, you're going to be starting with Judy's Magic Cast On because we're knitting a complete tube. And Judy's Magic Cast On makes a very invisible cast on that is completely seamless. So the stitches just flow into each other. So it's a lovely, lovely cast on. It's great for using for the toes of toe-up socks. Sometimes you use it for the top of a hat or the very top of a mitten if you're making a mitten from the top down. And in this case, we're making a tube cowl. So we are casting on with Judy's Magic Cast On along here, and then we're going to be knitting in the round to create this tube. So if you are starting, here's your lovely, lovely yarn. I'm going to start from the outside because I don't know where the inside went. So when you're doing Judy's Magic Cast On, you want to have a really nice tail because we need to have those stitches enough to create half of the stitches. And we're going to be using 2 needle tips. I said in the other video, for this cowl, you can use a 16-inch circular needle for the cowl, but it's very difficult to begin a Judy's Magic Cast On a circular needle that small because the cord is just kind of in your way and not quite big enough to manipulate the way you need to. So whether or not I'm going to use a 16-inch cord for my actual project, I like to use at least a 40-inch or 2 smaller cords that are at least 16-inch, but more like 24 is a happier place to be. And so we're going to use 2 needle tips when we do the Judy's Magic Cast On. So you lay your yarn with a nice long tail over the top tip of your needle, and then you make a diamond shape by holding the part that goes over the back of the yarn over your pointer finger and the part that goes over the front of your needle over your thumb. And then you hold both ends with your other fingers. And then you're going to pivot your whole hand so you can go up and over from the outside to the inside on your bottom needle. And so your pointer finger yarn goes up and over from the outside to the inside on that bottom needle, and then you pivot the other way and you bring your yarn up and over the top needle from the outside to the inside from your thumb yarn. And that is how you do Judy's Magic Cast On. And so you just keep doing the same. I do have other videos too, but I wanted to show it in this yarn specifically, but you keep doing the same thing where you bring your thumb yarn over, up and over the top needle, and your pointer finger yarn up and over the bottom needle. You always, always want to go from the outside to the inside as you do this, from the outside to the inside. And you're pivoting your hand like that. Again, there are other videos that I've done and other videos that other people have done that might even explain this better for you, but I wanted to have one up here where I was casting on this actual project so you can see what it looks like in our yarn and our needle size. This is a 3.5 millimeter needle, also known as a US 4. This is a Knitter's Pride set that I got recently and haven't had much of an opportunity to use, but I thought it might be really pretty on this project because the color is so pretty. I am not the most, like, kind of the best videographer or video maker, so I'm gonna pause now. I'm gonna cast on the rest of these and then I'll come back and it'll be a little splicey in the video, but then I'll show you how to start the round too. So thank you so much. All right, I'm back. So I have casted on my 80 stitches, 40 on each needle. So you can see that I've got both of my tails just kind of hanging here. And this is how I've been holding with my needle tips oriented to the left, and I'm holding both the bottoms of both needle tips in my right hand. So in order to start, because we're knitting in the round, we're never turning it over, so we're knitting on the back. So because we're knitting on the round, instead of turning, we're kind of pivoting. So we have, instead of having our top needle, you know, what was our top needle here is now our bottom needle, and what was our bottom needle is now our top needle. So as we start working, we want to make sure we grab the yarn that's attached to the ball of yarn and not the tail that is attached to nothing. And so we're going to, and it's a little tight, but we're going to pull out our bottom needle so that our stitches for our bottom needle are now sitting on the cord. And we're going to tension this, our yarn that is attached to our ball. That is the last loop we put on this needle, and it is not, it's just kind of looped over the needle. So in my classes, my sock classes, I call this knitting the stitch that goes nowhere, because this doesn't feel like it's a stitch, but it totally is a stitch, and it totally creates a stitch. So you knit that first one, and then you just keep knitting all the way across there. Okay, and so we're just knitting. Knit, 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 knit. Oops-a-doozle. Knit, knit, knit. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and pause it so you don't have to watch me knit like that, and then I'll be back to show you how to go to the other side. Okay, I'm almost done with knitting that first needle's worth of stitches, so I've got 2 left. So I'm going to go ahead and knit the last 2. And so I've got, you can see right here that these looks just like rows of stitches going both ways. Now again, because we're doing something in the round, we are not turning. If we turn, we look like we see purl stitches on the back, and we don't want to see those. So we are pivoting like this. And so the needle that was on the top is now on the bottom, and the needle that was on the bottom is now on the top. And what we want to do is get those stitches back on the needle tip, our top stitches. So we're going to push it in, and then we're going to gently pull our bottom needle tip out. Again, we're going to make sure that we are looking at the front of our work, so it should look like knit stitches, not purl stitches right here, and get our yarn tensioned and then start knitting. Now, the way we cast on our Judy's Magic Cast On, the first stitch is just a normal knit, but then all the rest of them on the side are going to be twisted, so we're going to knit through the back loop. Just like that. Because we want to untwist them. Oh, sorry. We want to untwist them. So if you look here, look at that. Just knit stitches, just rows of knit stitches. So you just keep doing that until you get to the end of this row. You just keep knitting through the back loop. Okay, I'm going to pause it again and come back when I get to the end of the row. Okay, we're back and we have 2 more stitches to knit, again, just on the side through the back loop. When I get to this point, I like to tug on my tail to tighten things up. And as we go forward, we're going to work really hard to make sure our sides are nice and snug so that envelope that we have here closes up nicely. So again, remember we're pivoting, not turning. So we're always looking at the front of our work. And so again, we want to put the stitches back on that tip that was on the bottom and then pull the bottom tip out. We're back to where our tail is, so we want to make really careful we grab the yarn that's attached to the ball and not the tail. And this is when I start, especially way at the beginning, folding. So my stitches are nice and close right here. The first couple stitches, I kind of fold up the piece that I have so far. It's easier the more rows you have or more rounds you have. But I kind of want to fold it up so I'm holding the back needle or the back cord close to the front needle as I knit. You won't need to knit through the back loop anymore for any of these stitches. You just need to knit. And I think it's 8 rounds total. So what you can do too to help yourself is place a little removable stitch marker at the front, at the beginning of your round, because a round is all the way around, right? And it's easy right now because we see the tail here, but once we have a little pocket, we're going to shove, or what I like to do is shove my tails inside the pocket once the pocket gets big enough where it can hold it. And, you know, you can tell just by looking what round you're on a lot of times, but I always like to dummy proof my knits, Shannon proof them. So I use this little, this is a little, it's from A Needle Runs Through It, and it's one of our little ShannaJean products, but I just like to hook this in, and I will likely keep moving it up as I go. But right now it's just sitting here and it's showing me that this is the beginning of my round. So I would wait until I had a couple of rounds for sure before I added that, until I had the pocket. But yeah, so I hope that helped. I'm going to put the link to our community, our Mighty Networks community, in the description on the YouTube video, and I'm going to put a link to some errata that came up too. So, but I hope this kind of helped you get started and going on your Over the Moon Advent project, and I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you so much for being part of our community. Bye-bye.